If you could use a little laugh right now, you're going to get it. Have you ever stopped to think about the fact that there's someone in the world right now that has your email, but just with one letter off? Like it could be Mel Robbins, but instead of spelling it with two B's, Robbins, it's one B. I want you to imagine that there's a person, for real, because there is, out in the world right now, just living their life. They got their email address just like yours, but they got one letter that's different. Now imagine that all of a sudden in their email box, they start receiving emails that are meant for you. And it doesn't happen just once. It happens several times because somebody misspells the email and oh my gosh, it was part of an email that went to a group email. And so now they keep getting emails that are meant for you over and over because people keep replying. Is it annoying? Or is this an unexpected connection? Well, that's exactly what happened to my mother-in-law, Judy Robbins. See, one day, one of Judy's sons sent an email to Judy. But he accidentally left one letter out. He misspelled the email. And all of a sudden, who received that message from Judy's son? Another woman whose email was the same, but only one letter different. What happened next? Well, this stranger responded back to Judy's son. And tell you what, I'm going to let my mother-in-law, Judy, tell you the story.
One of my boys got an email from this woman saying, I just want to let you know I'm not your mother. And so one of the boys had written me a note, but had dropped off this one letter, and she got it.
So they sent you a note, and they sent it to the wrong email address because they had just misspelled the email address and dropped off one letter, and it ends up going to this
person,
stranger.
This stranger.
Okay, and so she sends the email back.
And so she sent an email back to this person, which was one of the boys. I don't know who was saying, just want to let you know I'm not your mother. Your mother must have a different email address. Then I got several of them started to pick up, and it was really funny. She wrote to one of the women that I'm in a book club with, and she started off by saying, I'd love to come to your book club, but unfortunately I can't. I live in France, in Paris. So please tell Judy that, this is my email and that's hers. And so this went on and on and on. By then we were writing each other.
What's her name?
Juliet.
So Juliet is over in France. And occasionally when people are trying to reach Judy Robbins here in the United States, they misspell your email. Yeah. It ends up going to Juliet in France.
Yeah.
And she then forwards it to you. And you two...
Oh, no, she started just answering them.
She started answering
which would copy me. Okay. Can't come to your book club, which I could. One point in time, she got a receipt for all my cosmetics that I got from Neiman Marcus. Oh. And then she said, I'd love to try the eye cream, but I'm not going to pay your bill. Just so she had gotten this receipt.
Okay.
They sent it to the wrong. Anyway, this has been going on for, close to 15 years.
15 years?
Yeah, quite a while. And so we became friends, pen pals, I guess is what you'd say. So we would write each other back and forth. So I looked her up, actually, and found out that she's American, and she went to college here in America and lives in Paris. And I don't know if she ever looked me up, but she wouldn't have gotten as much information as I got of her because she's very, very well read, and she teaches. When one of my granddaughters was going over to Paris, I said, you've got to look up Juliet. So I wrote Juliet and said she was coming over, and sweet as could be, of course, she took her out to dinner with her friends, took her to her apartment in Paris. Anyway, last year we met up in Vermont, in Woodstock, and had lunch.
And what was that like?
It was amazing. She's your age.
Okay. In her 50s.
Yeah, 3 kids. She actually grew up in the state of Vermont, believe it or not, in a farm. And she comes back all the time because her mother is in a retirement home in Hanover.
So this experience of meeting a stranger over in Europe via a email address error.
Yeah,
and
error.
then becoming pen pals for 15 years and then meeting in real life. What did this teach you?
Well, I've said it so many times, and it's such a cliche, but I think everything happens for a reason. And she came into my life as another friend, and we just had so much fun. I'll tell you, one of her emails was so wonderful. I wrote to her, and I was saying, it's a beautiful summer night, and I'm having a glass of Sauvignon Blanc and thinking about you. And she wrote back the next quite quickly and said, well, I'm in Burgundy having a wonderful glass of Burgundy. And they have a summer house somewhere out there in the countryside. So it's been wonderful to get to know her. She's a lovely person.
I think that there are opportunities to make connections all around us, and we completely minimize the fact that somebody having an email address that's one letter off, and that exchange that could have literally been, hey, I keep getting your emails. Could you please let everybody know that it's like just that cutting off communication versus leaning in with a sense of warmth and humor opened up this door to a 15-year-long friendship.
Well, she was very open. I mean, she could have been really irritated by it all.
Yes. And I think that's the point.
Yeah.
Is that when these random things happen, maybe instead of seeing it as an inconvenience, see it as the universe opening the door.
Fall in rather than,
Fall in rather than falling out. Genius. You know what I love about what Judy said? She said, Juliet could have been annoyed by it. And just think about it. I think most of us would have been annoyed by it. In fact, if it happened to you, you might be annoyed because you feel kind of inconvenienced, or you just sort of delete it, or like wrong address, or you shrug it off and you just kind of move on. What if when you do that, you miss the opportunity of a lifetime to have a friend who lives across the world and looks at your receipts, and you want to know why she got her receipts? This is the funniest part, because think about it. Judy misspelled her own email. I mean, and when she gets these receipts from you after getting all these other emails from other people that were meant for you, she just laughs with you about how much you're spending on your stupid eye cream. Or, she gets the emails from your kids and your book club, and she makes space for a joke about it. She then forwards your emails to you in a way that just is so open and good, making sure that you're getting your emails. And what about Juliet? Here, this random woman who is 30 years older than her, suddenly she's got a connection with through Vermont? That is so cool. I just love this story. And one of the reasons why I love this story, because you can see how your attitude in these moments of an unexpected connection mean everything. And Judy, just as you learned through the story with our daughter Sawyer earlier, not only turned something from cold to warm, but they turned warm into a lifelong friendship out of thin air. Why? Because someone went first. In the case of Judy's story, Juliet went first. She leaned in. Sawyer went first. Said hello. You strike up a conversation. You're not taking life so seriously. And when you're open to connection. And I'm not even done yet, because I have a fourth story, and I love this story so much. And my friend Amy shared this story with me. You are going to love this. Her friend Astrid was at this huge community pool one day in the height of summer. And there she is. She's watching her son and her daughter play in the kiddie pool, and her kids are starting to play with these kids from another family. And so Astrid starts talking to the dad of these two kids, whose name was Rich. Just some light banter. And you can picture this, right? You're at a community pool. There's so many people. Like everybody's all over the place, and kids. And there you are. You're standing there in shin deep water. You got your one-piece bathing suit on. You're holding a sandwich. You turn, you talk to the other parent next to you. Nothing deep. It's so hot out. Oh, the snack bar. Yeah, I got the sandwich. It's not that bad. That kind of thing. And now you and I know that these things, they can just kind of fizzle out kind of quickly, right? And that's exactly what happened in this situation. But when it was time to go, and Astrid started packing up, and she was on her way out, Rich, the dad, literally walked up to her with his wife and said, hey, how about you guys come on over for brunch? I mean, our kids got along. And, in honesty, Ostrid thought, okay, this is a little much to go from standing in shin deep water to a brunch date, but she didn't want to be rude, so she said yes. She got home, she marked it on her calendar, she told her husband about it, and completely forgot about it. In fact, when the brunch date arrived several weeks later and she saw it on the calendar, you know what her reaction was? Oh my God, what, brunch? Ostrid couldn't remember who it was that invited them to brunch. I mean, she couldn't remember the dad's name. She couldn't remember their faces. Plus, she didn't want to go. No one wanted to get out of their pajamas and go to this stupid brunch. But I got to tell you what, I got to give her props because she forced her family to go. I mean, can you imagine? You load your family up. Nobody wants to go. You can't even remember the dad's name. And now you're standing on the front stoop of this house of these people that you don't know. You're raising your fist and knocking on the door, racking your brain, trying to remember what they look like. And not only was it a surprise that afternoon having brunch with some random family that they met at the pool, it was magical. They clicked instantly. The conversation flowed so easily, it was nonstop. And check this out. They found out that both couples lived in Chicago at the same time when they were in graduate school. And then they found out that they were in Mexico in the 1980s at the same time. And their paths must have crossed without them knowing because the amount of shared experiences. And then as they're having brunch, Ostrid and Rich, wait to hear this. They find out that they have the same birthday. And I'm talking not only the same day, but the exact same year. Don't you freaking love it when you meet your birthday twin? I mean, how cool is this? I love this stuff. And it doesn't end there. Check this out. Ostrid is an interior designer and designer of custom headboards. And Rich loves flipping houses. And that was the start of another magical connection. A few conversations later, Ostrid and Rich felt like there was an opportunity that they just couldn't ignore, and they started a house flipping business together. Their skills just complemented each other perfectly. And for years, they ran a successful house flipping business, and they called it Same Day, Same Year. I love that story because what if you not only took everything that you're learning about how you can use these unexpected connections and see strangers as a way to bring more joy and energy and meaning in your day-to-day life. But what if you look at it as something even deeper? That it's almost like a scavenger hunt of people where there are people you're meant to meet that in the process of bumping up the energy and saying hello and leaning in and being that kind of positive person, spreading the ripple of positivity, that's how you're going to find the person that you're meant to meet next. And if you really think about the story, doesn't it feel like something had been trying to pull them together all along? There's no doubt in my mind that they did cross paths in Mexico, but no one went first. There's no doubt in my mind that they did meet in Chicago, but nobody leaned in. But that day at the community pool, that unexpected connection, that was the day. And to think, it always begins the same way, with a simple hello and a conversation. And that leads to connection and curiosity and just feeling good. And that leads to invitation on a whim to brunch and a willingness to see what's on the other side of the door. And often what you'll find is beyond your wildest dreams. And that leads me to our final story of Jamal Hinton and Wanda Dench. And much like Judy and Juliet's friendship, which began with a misspelled email, this story begins with Wanda, who texted a number that she thought was her grandson, inviting him to Thanksgiving dinner. And the text read, "Thanksgiving dinner is at my house on November 24 at 3 p.m. Let me know if you're coming. Hope to see you all. Of course, that includes Amanda." Now, it turns out she didn't text her grandson. Turns out the text went to someone named Jamal a complete stranger. Now, Jamal received the text and was like, what is this? He had no idea why he was on a text chain about Thanksgiving with these random people, and he had no idea who Amanda was. At the time, Jamal was just a 17-year-old high school student, and here he is sitting in class when he gets this text message from a stranger. What does he do? He doesn't delete it. He writes back, who is this? Wanda replies, your grandma. So Jamal texted back, Grandma, can I have a picture? Wanda says, of who? Jamal says, you, LOL. So this is where it starts to get real, because Wanda sends her picture. And so I want you to imagine, she's a really pretty woman, big smile, grayish hair. She looks like an awesome grandma. And Jamal sends his photo back. And he looks like a high school athlete, big smile, it's awesome. And then he writes below his picture, you're not my grandma, with the shocked face emoji and the laughing emoji. But then he adds, and I love this, can I still get a plate though? And Wanda does not miss a beat. She texts, of course. That's what grandmas do. They feed everyone. Talk about an unexpected connection. Just like Juliet, Wanda leaned in, and so did Jamal. And guess what? Jamal ended up coming to Thanksgiving dinner with Wanda's family. Now, can you imagine the conversation Wanda had with her family about how she invited a total stranger to Thanksgiving because she texted the wrong person? And can you imagine how nervous Jamal was? Knocking on the door of a total stranger for Thanksgiving? In fact, I bet it was a bit awkward for everyone. But remember what the research proves. It goes so much better than you expect. And it sure did. It always does. See, Wanda and her husband Lonnie were instant friends with Jamal. And eventually Jamal and his girlfriend began going on regular double dates with Wanda and Lonnie. That's how strong the connection became. They posted online about this unexpected Thanksgiving text gone wrong connection, and it went so viral. You maybe are now starting to go, I think I remember this. And why does it go viral? Because you and I, we love the story of how an unexpected stranger can become a very close friend. And get this, Wanda, Lonnie, Jamal, his girlfriend, Michaela, along with Wanda and Lonnie's family, go on to spend 4 straight years of Thanksgiving together. And every year they post about it online with new selfies, and every year it goes viral. And then 2020, Lonnie, Wanda's husband, passed away. And that absolutely meant that things would be different at the dinner table at Thanksgiving. But that unexpected connection that Wanda and Jamal shared was even stronger the next year. They had a picture of Lonnie at the table and carried on with the tradition of having Thanksgiving dinner. And this past year marked the 8th Thanksgiving that Jamal and Wanda spent together. I think this connection is so inspiring. They share a Thanksgiving selfie every single year, and the world loves it. In fact, if you're listening to this, go to YouTube and you can watch this episode and see all the photos and all the pictures. It's really freaking cool. And we edited it all into the video version of the podcast. But just stop and think about why this heartwarming story about the unexpected friendship between Jamal and Wanda has struck a chord around the world. I think it shows how much we all crave connection, how we would all love to be welcomed with open arms like family. Their story shows how you and I are wired to be with people, to give love, to share love, and to open your arms and open the door and share your life with other people. But what I really love about their story is that it proves that you can find connection. You just have to be open to it. You have to lean in. You have to go first. The connections you make will enrich your life and make your life more exciting, adventurous, satisfying, and meaningful. Because it is true. Some of the most favorite people that you will meet in your lifetime are people you haven't met yet. And the only thing that's keeping you from meeting them is going first. When you look at the research around happiness, researchers have put happiness into 2 big categories. One is hedonic happiness, And hedonic happiness is, am I having fun right now? It's the moment to moment fluctuating experiences that you have. And let's go back to the metaphor. It's like the waves in the ocean. They come and they go. You can jump in, you can play, you can have fun, and then it's over. And then there is the deeper happiness, the eudaimonic happiness, which is the sense of your life having meaning, of you feeling fulfilled and thriving in that life of yours. And it's important for you to understand that happiness has these two buckets, because I think what happens for a lot of us, and this kind of gets to Andrea's question, is that maybe you have one type of happiness. Maybe you're having a lot of fun on the surface, but life doesn't feel very meaningful. Or maybe you're deep in it, but you're not having any fun. And so I really want to unpack the difference between these two things and why you need both before we jump into the 3 different ways that you can increase happiness in your life. And so let's go to another question from a listener named Rachel.
Hey Mel, I absolutely love your podcast and all of your work. I have a very loaded question, and I know a one-size-fits-all answer might not exist, but I wanted to ask anyway. How can I truly be happy? How do I cultivate happiness? I read so many self-help books, read a lot about the effects of childhood trauma. I journal. I try to be conscious of my habitual thoughts and patterns and work to reframe them. I exercise. I'm always listening to inspiring and transformational content like you. I feel like I do all the things, but I still struggle just to be happy and to feel happy. And I feel very stuck in the same emotions, and I really want to change. I really want to enjoy my life. Do you have any advice?
Rachel, I so relate to you. And I want to just pass the mic to you listening right now. When Rachel said, I just want to enjoy my life, didn't you get the chills? Didn't you nod along and say, yeah, I just want to enjoy my life too? And this is really on my mind because I think that's the point of life, right? To really try to enjoy it. And one of the things that I notice can happen when you are in a period in your life where you're trying to heal, you're investing in yourself, in your personal growth. You mentioned that you're working on trauma. You're trying to dig out of some of the holes maybe that you feel like you fell into. You're trying to change your mindset. That's serious work. That was me for years too. Here's the problem with having a big healing journey. You're not having any fun. I think about periods of my life when I was going through a lot of change and I was working on myself and I was doing everything that you're doing. Every book I picked up was self-help. Everything that I listened to was self-improvement. I couldn't even remember the last time I read a fiction novel or I went to a concert or I went to a party. Everything got so serious because my focus became so serious. And my focus was about improving my life, improving my life, improving my life. And doing the work to change your life, it's important. Doing the work to identify toxic patterns that you have or bad thinking patterns that make you feel like shit, that's super important. But you must also double down on the fun while you're doing the deeper work. And so the first thing that I want you to do is I want you to set an intention that your number one goal this year is to have more fun, to invest in that first category, hedonic happiness, that researchers say is so important. Because yes, it's meaningful. Yes, it's fulfilling to do the hard work to change your life for the better. But changing your life for the better also means that you need more moments of fun in your life. And I worry a lot about this based on what we've all experienced in the past 3 years. We've all become hermits. It's hard enough to get yourself out of your house. But the other thing that's happened is if you're not going into work, if you're still working from home, you're also missing out on all of the spontaneous stuff that happens when you bump into people when you're out and about. In fact, I can tell you a story. Just the other night, it was Sunday night, And, as a bit of background, my husband and I had gotten some really awful news last week that a very, very close friend of ours suddenly died. Age 47, heart attack, gone. And I had been holed up in my house ever since hearing the news. I was super sad, feeling down, and I hadn't left the house in days. And so on Sunday, Chris says to me, Mel, I made a 4:30 reservation at the paddle tennis courts, which is a kind of form of almost like ping pong that you can play, sort of like pickleball in the middle of the winter on these tennis courts outside with some friends. It was the last thing I wanted to do. I wanted to just curl up on the couch and suck my thumb and feel sad. And we got into the car, and the entire ride over, I was sitting there thinking, should I tell Chris I'm pissed that he made this date with this couple to go play paddle? Should I tell him this is the last thing that I want to do? I kept saying to myself, should I say this? Should I not say it? And then I would say, no, don't shit on his parade. Like, just suck it up. It's going to be okay. We pull up. The sun's starting to go down. It's freezing. I've got a hat on and mittens on, and I'm grumpy, and I don't really want to be there. And then I see our friends, and I felt a little lighter. Do you know it took about 5 seconds of hitting that ball around for me to feel totally different? The truth is, I needed the fun. I needed the laughter. I needed to not be thinking about something so heavy. I needed to see people that I really like. I needed to do something that wasn't that serious, like working on myself or feeling sad or grieving. I needed fun. And getting out on that paddle court, it was fun. And there's a part of me that is sitting here going, Mel, are we really having a conversation right now on this podcast about the obvious? That we need to schedule time to have fun, that we need to force ourselves out of our houses, that we need to break this habit of being isolated and lonely? Yeah, we do have to have this conversation, because I don't think you and I have truly grasped the extent to which our day-to-day lives and our happiness has been impacted by these past 3 years. I mean, even those of us who really enjoyed that period of lockdown where we were trapped inside with our families, this new normal, this part of it, where we're sort of back to normal, but we're not, but we're coping, but we're like this situation, the loneliness and isolation, it feels like it's become everybody's new lifestyle. It's our new default. But this isn't just obvious, it's well researched. Researchers have proven that the difference between people who are happy and those of us who aren't is that happy people prioritize doing things that make them happy. I know, it's so dumb, but I need the reminder too. So now let's go back to my analogy about the ocean and the beach and waves and happiness. And I want you to just imagine that you're sitting on the beach. And those waves are rolling in and they're rolling out, and there's a boogie board sitting next to you. At some point, you have to get off the towel and you got to run into that ocean and you got to go play. And the fact is, it just takes one person to get everybody else to go. There's always that one person in a group of people at a beach who stands up first and grabs the boogie board and says, let's go body surfing. Come on, guys, let's go into the waves. And thankfully, this past Sunday night, for me, it was Chris. He was that one person. And look, being intentional about enjoying your life, about having fun, particularly during those periods of time where you're grieving, where you are going through something difficult, where life feels heavy, prioritizing fun is critical. But that's just one of the 3 things that you and I are going to discuss when it comes to getting intentional and amplifying up the 40% of happiness that is within your control right now. And if you're sitting there scratching your head going, oh my God, this is so me, but Mel, I think I forgot how to have fun. Don't worry about it. I've got an entire episode that we did a while back called How to Have More Fun, and I will link to that along with all the studies that we're talking about in the show notes. And so now that you and I have been playing in the waves and you understand that dragging yourself out of the house to the beach, off the towel, into the ocean, and forcing yourself to do things that are fun, that is part of happiness that we cannot escape, you and I are now going to go deeper into the ocean. And we're going to talk about the two other elements that you can tap into to create more happiness in your life right now. And we're going to do that using more questions from fellow listeners of the podcast when we come back. Welcome back. I'm Mel Robbins, and you and I are talking about what research says about creating more happiness in your life. We've already talked about the fact that researchers have identified two types of happiness: hedonic happiness and eudaimonic happiness, both of which are critical to your overall feelings of happiness. And we've talked about why getting intentional about having more fun is critical to you feeling happier now. Now we're going to jump into the deeper part of happiness, and that is the eudaimonic happiness, whether or not your life has meaning. Because when you go through periods of life where life is monotonous, it just feels kind of blah, you're on autopilot, you're not going to feel that happy. Just ask Jenna.
Hey Mel, my name is Jenna, and my question for you is, how do you truly find happiness in everyday ordinary life? I'm a mom of 2 boys, and I struggle most days with being as joyful as I was when they were very little.
As a mother of 3 kids who are now young adults, I can relate to what you were saying about how you were joyful when they were little. And I love that you use the word joyful, because I want to go back to that metaphor that I introduced at the very beginning of an ocean, and thinking about an ocean when you think about happiness. And so to me, when you go to the beach and it's a very, very calm day, there are no waves, there might not even be a cloud in the sky. Boy, it sure is beautiful. Happiness is like a still ocean on those days. It's your ability to stand in that ocean and feel this state of presence and connectedness and gratitude to simply being in the ocean. And I want to come back to something that you also said that I absolutely loved. You used the word ordinary. And the reason why I think it's important for us to focus in on the word ordinary is we often make the mistake of thinking that happiness is this big thing, this big burst, the big wave. And when it comes to the eudaimonic happiness, the deeper meaning in your life that creates the sense of happiness and fulfillment for you, I want to flip this perspective, because true happiness comes from finding the extraordinary in the ordinary. That's right. True happiness is actually pretty ordinary. And researchers have identified the number one factor in you living a happy life. And it is the most ordinary thing on the planet, which is why most of us miss it. And that's the quality and depth of your relationships. So let's unpack this. The Harvard study of adult development is the longest in-depth longitudinal study of human life that's ever been done. I mean, this has been going on for 84 years and counting. And for those of you super geeks like me out there, this used to be called the Harvard Men Study. So when you hear people talking about the Harvard study of adult development, that's the new name for this. And it now includes 3 generations of people that they've been studying. The original 724 participants now include 1,300 descendants. How cool is that? And here's the thing about this study. This study followed people through their life, asking them all kinds of questions as people aged. And one of the reasons why this study is so profound is because it tracked people as they lived. Most studies have people looking backwards, which means, when you look backwards, you often change the details. That's why the Harvard study of adult development is so exciting and so accurate, and the most accurate and important study of happiness that's ever been done. not only because they have so much data and brain imaging scans, but they've also been studying people in real time, tracking them forward as they're living their lives. And Dr. Robert Waldinger is the fourth director of the study, and he and past study leaders have published these amazing findings that you and I can apply to our lives. These results from the Harvard Men's Study, they've been replicated in 5 other huge global studies. And I'm telling you all this because there's one singular conclusion from all of this data, all of this research, all of these fancy institutions. And it's this: good relationships keep you happier and healthier. Good relationships make you happier and healthier. The single best decision you can make to improve your health and happiness is to cultivate what researchers call warm relationships. I know what you're thinking. Mel, what the hell are warm relationships? Well, from a clinical standpoint, warm relationships are relationships that don't cause conflict, and you feel positive emotions around the people that you have a warm relationship with. Said in a normal person's way, it's basically people that make you feel warm and fuzzy. That's what warm relationships are. And I want you to stop and think right now. Let's apply the science. If you think about people in your life, I just want you to put 2 columns in your mind. Who would you put under the column labeled warm? They give you the warm and fuzzies. You get a text from them. You're like, oh, yeah, okay. You're excited to see them. You feel energized when you make plans. Now there's the cold column. These are people that put you on edge. These are people that drain your energy. These are the people that when they call or text you, you're like bracing for something. I can boil 84 years of research down to one takeaway. You want to be happier? Put all your energy into warm relationships, building them, strengthening them, spending time with those people in the warm column. You do that, you will be a happier you right now. And the second way that you can do that, by the way, prioritizing the warm, is spend less time with people in the cold column. You either need to stop hanging out with them because they're sucking your energy dry, or you got to put some effort into warming them up by forgiving them or reframing how you see them or working on your boundaries so that you're not triggered by them and their negativity doesn't impact your happiness. So keep that visual of a warm and a cold column. And as you meet people in your life, you can immediately feel what they're like. Are they warm? Are they bringing out the fuzzies? Or are you feeling on edge? Because when it comes to happiness, your happiness right now, not the I'll be when happy, the happiness that truly matters, standing in that deep end of the ocean, the quality of your relationships is truly the most important thing that matters. And I can explain why at an even deeper level. The reason why this matters so much, it is the number one indicator of a happy life. Good, warm relationships. Floating in that ocean with your warm buddies, keeping you buoyant. The reason why is evolution. See, positive or warm interactions with people, you know what that does, that warm, fuzzy feeling? Those kind of people in your warm column? They make you feel safe. When you're around those people, you're not on edge, so your body feels safe. And the opposite is true when you're around people that you would put in the cold column, because when you're around negativity, when people trigger you, when they put you on edge, when you feel like you can't be yourself, you're now in a stress response of fight, flight, or freeze. And this response to other people, it's wired in you. Early Homo sapiens survived because their bodies and their brains, they not only encouraged connection, but they also signaled when somebody might be unsafe. You and I survived because we're social beings. So this is hardwired into us. And here's where it gets interesting. When you feel loneliness, your brain perceives that as life-threatening. And loneliness is not just about physical separation from other people. You can feel very lonely in a crowded room. You can feel lonely in a bad marriage. You can feel lonely in a toxic friendship. And if you're nodding your head right now, thinking, wow, maybe it's not unhappiness. Maybe the core issue for me is I'm lonely. Well, 75% of adults feel moderate to high levels of loneliness. And loneliness is about the quality of your relationships. And I want to tie this back to evolution. Loneliness feels threatening because you're meant to survive in a tribe of people. You're meant to be connected with people that make you feel safe and warm. It's not only part of happiness, this goes down to your mind and body needing protection. And they've even proven that when life is really hard, when it can come at you in full-on attack mode, when you're in survival mode, warm, connected relationships protect you from the stress of life. So how do you do this? How do you tap into relationships? It sounds simple, but again, make the column warm and cold. And then call your friends, text them, arrange time to meet them. So when you feel a pang of loneliness, I want you to understand it's an alarm, just like anxiety. It's a signal that you're missing connection. Please do not ignore it. You may be surprised to hear that I felt this way for a very long time. I kept saying out loud, I'm not happy. I don't feel fulfilled. But when I dug deep into what was really going on for me, the core issue was loneliness. I was having fun. I was really busy. I was doing meaningful work. But deep down inside, I was really lonely. And it may also surprise you to hear that it was during one of the most successful stretches in my career. I was on the road all the time. I was booked nonstop to give speeches. I was working on all kinds of projects with Audible. The business was booming. I was making lots of money. And I have never been unhappier because I was lonely. I was traveling so much, chasing success, chasing achievement, going for the next thing, staying busy, that I never saw my friends. I barely saw Chris. I missed out on a ton of time with our daughters while they were in high school. It was just go, go, go. Now, I had a lot of fun on the business trips. I would laugh a lot. I was always traveling with colleagues, so I wasn't alone. And I was having fun in the waves of life. But when you talk about floating in the deep end of the ocean, I was profoundly lonely. And that meant I was profoundly unhappy. And it can be powerful when you admit this to yourself, because when you realize what you're dealing with is loneliness, that helps you identify the issue you need to improve, which is you need to start reaching out to people. You know, we underestimate the impact that simply getting an unexpected text from an old friend can have on you. I mean, think about how amazing it is when you have a birthday and everybody on social media that gets, you know, the kind of notification that it's your birthday, they come out of nowhere and they wish you happy birthday. It's like, that's unbelievable. It feels so good. You haven't talked to that person since high school, but it feels good to have somebody just give you a quick comment on your birthday. And so if you're sitting around saying, I'm really lonely, but you're not reaching out, you're not calling people, you're not the one making plans or inviting people over for dinner, guess what? You're going to stay lonely. Because when I really looked in the mirror and said, I'm lonely, I need to do something about this. I never get invited anywhere. I don't see anybody. Well, I wasn't inviting anybody over. I wasn't making any plans. It starts with you. And look, it could be anybody. It could be friends, family, coworkers. All you need to do is identify old relationships or cold relationships or warm relationships where you haven't seen somebody in a long time and reach out. And by the way, it could be old relationships. It could be people you haven't seen in a long time. Just anybody at all that makes you feel warm. Start putting energy into talking, texting, commenting, and making plans to see them. And be careful of the cold people, because research shows that spending time with the people in the cold column, it can actually make you feel more lonely. And it even worsens your health to be around people like that. And so you've got your friend Mel Robbins' permission to stop putting energy into draining relationships, because that's only going to make you feel more lonely, and spend more time with warm relationships. And that brings me back to Jenna's question, because she mentioned, did you notice that she felt happier when her kids were little? I suspect that when your kids were little, you were probably part of mom groups. You saw young moms all the time at drop-off, at pickup, at play group, and you felt like you were part of something. You had more warm relationships in your life. That's a sign that you're just missing connection. And I know I said it already, but I can't highlight enough how profound of a difference it can make to simply admit to yourself that you're lonely. That was the turning point for me when I realized a couple years ago, holy cow, I'm unhappy because I'm profoundly lonely. I don't see Chris enough, so I'm lonely in my marriage. I am lonely in my family because I'm not around. I'm working all the time. I never see my friends. And so once I said it was loneliness, that was the cause of my unhappiness, I could do something about it. And you want to know the first decision I made? I made a decision that I was going to change my work life, that I was going to get off the road, that Oakley being in high school was like a melting ice cube. And once the time was gone, I was not going to get it back. And so I reorganized my entire career, my entire business. Instead of sitting on a plane, I'm now sitting above my garage talking to you in a microphone so that I can be home. And it took a lot of work, but I'll tell you what, realizing that traveling that much for work was making it hard to cultivate those warm relationships, that was a huge wake-up call. Because on the surface, it looked like I was having a great time. I was in the waves, but I sure as hell wasn't when it came to the deeper stuff. And I know what you're thinking. Well, Mel, at least you have friends to go back to. What if I don't have any friends or many friends? Well, I would say this. Here's where you can start. Part of warm relationships and happiness is also cultivated by social interactions, the tiny ones you have every single day. Just talk to strangers. This is a great thing to do, by the way. And there's a study that was done by the University of Chicago that you have no clue how happy a random social interaction with a stranger can make you. You kind of inflate in your mind that it's going to be messy to talk to other people, but you underestimate the actual benefits of talking to other people. People who talk to strangers on a train or on a plane or at a bus stop or just at a coffee shop, they're much happier after they talk to the stranger, even if they don't think beforehand that they will be. You know who's great at this? My mother. I was just visiting my mom down in Florida. And when I was little, I used to think it was so annoying, but I now admire this about her. Absolutely everywhere we go, my mom talks to everybody. She talks to everybody about everything. She's constantly commenting on, oh, I like that sweatshirt, or hey, how you doing, or nice day. And people stop and they talk. And next thing you know, they've made a connection, or they're talking about a restaurant recommendation or it's just amazing. And the energy is immediately boosted. And if you're not good at this, here's a great tip. Always compliment somebody's nails. If somebody is waiting on you or standing in front of you in line, or you're sitting next to them, just compliment their nails. If you see somebody reading, ask them what they're reading and if they like it. That's a simple way to compliment somebody, to open up the dialogue, and it always boosts the energy. And one of the things that I'm really concerned about, and I've talked a lot about this on the podcast, and I know the researchers at Harvard are concerned about this too, and that's remote work. Everybody being at home. When we're at home, we miss out on these tiny social interactions with coworkers, with the barista, with the lady at the checkout counter, with the guy that you always see at the grocery store, with the customers that you're used to seeing come into the store. These tiny social interactions go a long way to making you feel warm. So bottom line, relationships, relationships, relationships. Talk to that stranger in line. Push yourself to reach out to people. Text somebody every single day. And don't forget your family. You kind of put family on the back burner, don't you? Because you think they're always going to be there. Make an effort. There's a lot of people in your family, maybe even cousins you haven't seen in a while, that you have a warm relationship with. I'm prioritizing happiness, which means I'm prioritizing the relationships in my life. But you got to push yourself, okay? Let's make ourselves a promise that we're both going to do this because you got the research and you now know why it matters. This question from Alana is one that we get a lot. And it's all about friendships and when your life changes and your friendships change, how to deal with it. Alana is working on herself. She writes, as I leave the old me behind, I'm scared of the rejection I will face when I start making choices for the new me. For example, instead of going to happy hour to bitch and moan about problems and having retail therapy sessions, spending money I don't have, I'll choose to go to the gym or go home to spend time on my project to fulfill my dreams. How can I cope with losing friendships that the old me has? You know what's interesting is that Alana said in her opening sentence to me, I'm scared of the rejection I will face when I start making choices for the new me. You know, I read something interesting, and I want to tell you this before I forget it, and then I'm going to talk generally about friendship, hoping that the way that I'm thinking about friendship will help you lose the guilt. Number one, this came from a book that my husband was reading about alcohol. And it really made me stop and think, and that is this. When you decide that you don't want to drink for whatever reason, what's interesting about being somebody that doesn't drink at a party is that the only person that gives a shit what's in your glass is you. Nobody else typically cares. But the thing that's interesting is that when somebody says to you, would you like a drink? And you say, no, I'm not drinking. I'm not drinking for the month of January, or no, I'm sober, or nah, I don't feel like it. What happens is the fact that you're turning down the alcohol, it can actually magnify somebody else's struggle with their own decisions around it. And so the first thing that I want to point out is, if you have friends that make you wrong for changing your life for the better, that's their issue. It's not yours. And so you got to untangle the fact that they have baggage about getting in shape, or they have baggage about going to the bar that's theirs, and it has nothing to do with the decisions that you're making. So if your friends in general give you blowback for changing for the better, what you need to say in the back of your mind is, interesting. They're obviously very conflicted about their choice to go to the bar and drink every night, but that has nothing to do with me. Here's the other thing you can do. If they start to make you wrong, you can say, well, you want to go to Planet Fitness with me instead? It doesn't sound like you want to be at the bar. So that said, let me talk to you a little bit about friends. Friends are people that you care about. And I have this test, I call it the funeral test. If somebody in your life were to die, ask yourself, would I go to their funeral? If the answer is yes, they're a friend of yours. That's the test for whether or not, in my opinion, someone is a friend, because it means you care about them. Now, here's the other thing about friendship that I want you to understand. You can care about somebody and not like hanging out with them. And that's the situation that you're in right now. That you have plenty of friends that you care about. If they were to die, you would go to their funeral. If they needed you, you would be there. If you saw them, you'd be happy to see them, but you don't like to hang out with them. The other thing that I want you to think about is that, and that's okay, that's like a normal part of friendship. And the reason why that's a normal part of friendship is because one of the things that we know about life is that you're always going to be changing. In the old pattern and the old chapter, you had certain patterns, right? In the old chapter of your life, you would go to the bar and drink. You would go to the store and spend money you didn't have. You're in a new chapter now. And so you have different patterns. When your life takes on different patterns, whether it's you're no longer going to the bar, you're going to the gym, the pattern might even be that one of your kids is playing with a different soccer team, or maybe you've moved to a different street in your town. When the patterns change, so will your circle of friends. It's a fact of life. But that doesn't mean your old friends, the ones that you used to drink with, aren't friends anymore. It just means that you don't want to hang out with them. You still care about them, but you don't like doing what they do. The patterns have changed. For a long time, I had a lot of drama around this until I realized that it's not personal. It's not personal that you don't want to hang out with them. Patterns in your life have simply changed. The final thing that I want to leave you with that may also help you is that, remember, I've given you the funeral test. If you'd go to their funeral, they're definitely a friend. It means you care about them, but you might not like hanging out with them that much, and that's cool. That's normal. The other thing that I want you to think about when it comes to friendships is you can typically put friends into 3 buckets. You got friends for a reason, you got friends for a season, and you have friends for a lifetime. And one of the interesting things that I know about my own life is that as the patterns of my life change, so do the friends that I hang out with more frequently. And I also believe that as you change and the patterns in your life change, people show up in your life for a reason. The right people will show up when you start going to the gym. The right people that you need for the pattern that you're in right now will start showing up when you're working on your project instead of shopping. And it's exactly the kind of people that you need. They're there for a reason. And the friends of yours that are friends of yours for a lifetime, I bet you don't hang out with them that much at all anyway. But I bet they're the first person that you call when you need to talk to somebody about somebody important. Those are the friends for a lifetime. And those folks that are still sitting at the bar and love to blow money that they don't have, those were friends for a season. So if you're wondering how to cope with feeling guilty about distancing yourself, and if you're wondering how to stop feeling like a bad and unloyal friend, understand this, friendship, it's really not about you. It's about the category in which people fit in, depending upon what pattern and what chapter of your life that you're in. That's it. Like, lose the drama about it. The friends at the bar are friends for a season. The people that are going to show up when you start going to the gym are friends for a reason. And the people that you need to call whenever you've got a problem, they're friends for a lifetime, and they're always going to be there. I used to struggle all the time with like walking on eggshells, tiptoeing around issues, like seeing somebody in a bad relationship but not wanting to say anything because she's really in love with them or whatever, or seeing somebody getting walked all over at work and not wanting to say anything. And I used to not say things because I gave a shit about somebody being mad at me or disappointed or hurting their feelings. And I personally look back on that and say to myself, you're a bad friend. You should have given a shit. You should have given a shit, Mel, so much so that you were willing to risk somebody being disappointed or mad with you, that you told them the truth. And you told them the truth because you cared about them and you needed somebody to tell them the truth. Have you ever been in that kind of situation? Because you strike me, Cameron, so much as somebody that can, boom, just get right to the heart of something like that. Your mind is so like powerful.
Yeah, I feel like I've always been the honest friend, but it definitely has been a line that I've walked, and sometimes I've crossed over it and I've come off as a dick. And I think that's, as I've reflected and gotten older, trying to find that balance of when can I not give a shit and really just like say it as it is, but when is it going to cross the line? And there's been many moments where I feel like it's been necessary, and it's important to remember when I feel like Dr. Amy reacted in the perfect way. She was really honored that you were willing to give her that advice and take the time to kind of explain why you felt she should be going by a different title. But I feel like in a lot of those situations, it's normal. You're going to get someone that's defensive and that doesn't want to hear it. So
my mom always used to say that difficult conversations are a lot like putting a time-released grenade in somebody's head. Like, it might not explode when you're saying it. They get defensive, they argue against it, but eventually it'll click and go off. Because if you're coming from, and I think that's the takeaway as you're listening to us, that you're not doing anybody any favors if you give a shit about disappointing people or upsetting people, but you are being an incredible friend or family member or mentor or leader or colleague if you can really align with your values in wanting to support someone and wanting to tell the truth, and you give a shit about that. And when you do that, I think you can manage your tone, but you don't censor yourself. And that's the most important part. Should I wait for the construction vehicle to go by? Are we hearing the beeping? Yeah, actually, maybe the beeping, everybody, is trying to get you to go deep, deep, deep. This is really important.
Attention.
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 Now, let's go back to my original desire. My desire is that your life as an adult feels like summer camp. And the reason why I say that, even though I got homesick and left early at every summer camp I ever went to, is that the one thing that's really great about summer camp or college is that you're constantly rolling out of bed. And it's like, hey, let's go grab a meal. Hey, let's go to a coffee shop. Hey, you want to go on a hike? Hey, da, da, da.
Yes.
You walk down the hallway, and next thing you know, you're like brushing your teeth next to somebody, and you're then walking to the dining hall together.
Yeah.
It's like constant kind of just bumping into people and energy around it and fun, spontaneous fun. So one thing that I've started taking on more and more, and I stole this from friends of mine that I think are hilarious, is that I try to lighten up every single group chat that I'm in with memes, with funny ass photos, and it works wonders.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like when somebody texts you, like you want to get together, I will literally take the ugliest selfie and be like, absolutely, but not right now because I haven't even gotten dressed for the morning yet. You know, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or you want to meet for coffee? Yeah. I'm so excited to see you. I'm coming in my pajamas and I'm not kidding. And then I take a photo, you know, like that sort of, I'm in camp again. Mm-hmm. I'm having fun again.
You are.
And it's working.
Yeah.
It's working. I've gone from wanting to just have dirt around my house to putting plants in the ground. I've gone from, you know, feeling like I've got sympathy friends, like that my only friends are people I work with, to feeling like, well, actually, I feel like I it's not even that my work friends have become my friends. It's that I just get to hang out with my friends all day long, and we call part of that time work.
Right.
Right? You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
I love
totally.
that.
And now I'm like, oh my God. Like this morning, you guys, this morning was it.
What happened? What are you
Oh
talking
my
about?
God. Well, first of all, I've already told you, I woke up, I did my, like, you know, my ABCs. I you know, got up out of the bed. I drank my water. I made my bed. I was about to go out for a walk. I pick up my phone. And there is this literally long text chain of Amy and David going freaking off.
Yeah.
Like with each other at 5:30 in the freaking morning.
On a Friday.
On a Friday.
It's Friday, people. You got to double down.
Literally.
Come
Like they
on.
are going. I'm trying to think.
Ooh, that is
it
long.
It started at 5:06 a.m.
Oh,
with
my
a video from
I
David.
was in my REM cycle then. Jeez.
Of the mist in the valley. I home sweet home. Amy says, I just can't. I was just thinking about you. He's like, I'm good. I'm ready. Amy's like, super. What are the weekend plans? David's like, get my health and wellness underway. Start figuring my business out. Relax. Blah-bitty, blah-bitty, blah. What time is the card pull?
Yeah.
Amy pulls
love
cards,
that.
as you know. Amy's like, jumping right in. Super. Pulling the card at 6:45. Guys, I'm sleeping as all of this is going on. David's like, ooh, all my poems are now edited, so I'll probably get after that. Like, they're still going, you guys.
Yeah.
It's not even 6 o'clock. It's 6:20.
Yeah.
6:20, I wake up, and I see the last thing, which is, Mel, get in here if you're up. I'm like, I love these people. So we text back in the morning,
It's like
and
a
then
camp.
all
They
of a
just walk
sudden,
to your cabin and start
Yeah.
waking
Well,
you
David
up.
did. He came over to my house.
Oh,
And we did
you're
a walk
going to the cabin
in the morning.
Yeah.
It really is like a cabin.
I said, I feel like I'm in college or a camp. I just fucking love you guys.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then I said that, you know, I'm going to head off to this Pilates class, and then I'm going to stop for an 800,000 calorie pastry. And then David's like, Mel, this is way better than camp. It's fucking amazing because we can have wine here. And then
What time are we talking now?
That sounds like
was
David.
7.
What time is it? 7? Okay.
and then
I love this.
I walk into my number 4 coffee shop, and guess who's there? David. And then guess who pulls in? You, Jesse.
Hello.
And then guess who pulls in? Maxine, our other friend.
No way.
Because she was having a meeting there.
Oh, of course.
Because of course, where do you go to have a meeting?
Number 4, baby.
Well, yeah, or number 3, or
Or
number
whatever,
2,
yes.
but just don't go to number 1.
Yes. Right.
Because you're not going to establish the bond there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
How freaking cool is this?
So cool.
And this is available to you. What did you two get out of this conversation?
It's so, I want to say easy. It's easier than we think, than we give it credit for.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it helps in our small little town that you can remember people's names and you're going to bump into someone. But I never did this even in the city when I had access to 10 coffee shops, you know?
Yeah.
Never tried because you just stayed in your bubble. But here it's so special having this. And I'm with you. Like, it's just so cool to go to a place and be like, oh yeah, there's my friend. And then I'm going to bring another friend here. Like, I'm trying to meet someone this weekend for coffee.
9 o'clock
and
Saturday morning.
I'm going to take her to number 4. Yeah.
I'm meeting at 9 o'clock Saturday morning, tomorrow morning.
Done.
Nice. Okay. I will. I'll do
It's
that
so
right before I
cool.
go to Jane's game.
Oh,
Jane's
fun.
soccer
Oh,
game.
see?
Yeah. Okay.
And so, to those of you that live in a bigger city, here's the thing though, your neighborhood has all these places. Mm-hmm. And your favorite place to go exercise has all these places around it.
Yeah.
And your kid's school or your office has these 4 places around it. And so get intentional, because getting serious about adult friendship, which means A, stop lying to yourself. You do have friends. All those people that were your friends that you saw all the time and those bonds that kept you in proximity that have disintegrated, your friendships are still there. It's on you to reach out. Number 2, use the coffee shop model. Use the coffee shop model and get intentional about this. And you be the first, and you be the one pushing it, and you bring the fun. Number 3, approach. Just be interested in people.
Yeah.
Be open. Make sure you get their contact information. Take a selfie. At least take a photo of the pastry or whatever so you can remind them.
Yeah.
Have a kind of that go-to. You do it every week at a certain time, and then people start to aggregate, and that feels like you're connected to something.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like church used to be, I think, for a lot of people.
I think so. And I think what I love about this is it's something you do anyway.
Yep.
You're having your cup of coffee anyway.
Yeah.
Are you going to do it alone, or are you going to do it with other people? Like you said, Mel, you're going to exercise anyway. Are you
Right.
going to do it alone, or are you going to do it with other people? I was talking to my mother-in-law who was talking about how she used to get together with her girlfriends and fold laundry together.
Oh.
You're doing it anyway.
laundry
Yes.
party.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
You're cooking dinner anyway. Why
Yeah.
not invite a friend, have both your families come on over, enjoy the time together, and make it a friendship moment.
Or weeding.
And I
if we
love-
traded weekends.
Did we talk about
I
that?
love weeding. Yeah.
Or
You
like
do?
like when you were painting your
Well,
house.
if you want to come here to weed,
Yeah.
I will come to your house and do something else because I can't stand weeding.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something
All right.
that you don't love.
I remember when you moved in and you were painting your house, and I was like, I got to get after that because I love.
I was like, you're
I
crazy.
love
You're just
painting.
being
I'd
sweet.
come
but you
over
were
and help you paint.
serious.
I love cutting a room.
I never did it, just to be completely transparent on this podcast, but I really feel like those are those moments, like you and I standing side by side with paintbrushes and getting crap in
Yeah.
our hair, and you know what I mean, and Myrtle walking through the paint. And,
Oh, hi, Mert.
I just think that those are moments that are way better than let's all, go to, I don't know, a restaurant or, something that feels fancy.
Right.
Those plain spoken moments are way better.
And I loved what you said, that friendship is a verb. That was
that's
a
what I
really,
got from
really good point as well.
Amazing.
That it takes not a lot, but it takes effort and action. And
Yeah. We're not in first grade anymore.
Yeah.
We don't just show up in class.
No.
and
But
make
You know
our
what?
friends.
And this is my final note. It could be way more fucking fun. The best years of your life and the best friendships are ahead of you. So get your ass to number 1, number 2, number 3, or number 4.
Yeah.
And start making them, people. All righty. I love you. I
great.
love you. I love you. I love you. I want you to have this much fun in your life. You deserve to have this much fun, and you can create it. Give it a year. Keep chipping away at it, and you will find your people. Because I just did, and whoa, God, is it amazing. All right. I'll talk to you in a few days. Hey, it's Mel. Thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed that video, by God, please subscribe because I don't want you to miss a thing. Thank you so much for being here. We've got so much amazing stuff coming. Thank you so much for sending this stuff to your friends and your family. I love you. We create these videos for you. So make sure you subscribe. Mwah.